Hello boys and girls and welcome to the Roaming Startup Show. I am Professor Hans von Puppet. Today, Zach and Bob spent some time to talk about the difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I think they're both wonderful. Stay tuned to hear how Kickstarter is cutting off vaporware. Oh, that sounds serious.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Roaming Startup Show. Once again, I'm Zach and I've got Bob here with me, and today's show is about Kickstarter versus Indiegogo and the primary differences. So Bob, go ahead and kick us off here and let us know what we're talking about today.
How you doing, Zach?
Great.
So what's new and exciting?
Well, got a couple interviews coming up on the website. Looking really forward to getting those up, and really just making sure that we get as much information on the website to help people reach their dreams of crowdsourcing. What about you?
Yeah, it's been quite a challenge to get the launch done, so I'm kind of glad it's there. And I know we had an interview recently with Kevin from We Are Superman, and that was a great interview. I can't wait to see that get up there and have some reaction to that.
It'll be nice to have everything up and running.
Yeah. So today we're going to chat a little bit about the two big boys on the block, Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and some of their differences. And as I've kind of started getting more and more knowledge in this, it's been a little surprising how different these two boys are.
Yeah, they're actually, I kind of thought it was going to be a very even comparison and, take your pick, but there's quite a bit of differences, and there's, talking to a couple people and reading a lot of different stuff, there are big people that are proponents of Kickstarter, and then there are big people that are proponents of Indiegogo, and they all have their different reasonings. So it's been interesting to see the differences and everything that's going on, and it all seems to stem around money. I know that's crazy, but that seems to be the deciding factor.
No, you're right. The greenback is exactly where most of these changes, most of these differences are, and right now Kickstarter has recently put some changes in that we're going to talk about in their policy that's made the difference even more contrasted between these two organizations. It's been kind of interesting. So I guess first thing is let's talk about who can fundraise. There's some difference between these two on who exactly can utilize them.
Yeah. Kickstarter, they do. They have a lot more restrictions on who's allowed versus nonprofit versus profit. They restrict quite a bit, and they have specific restrictors in what they do, while Indiegogo is a lot more open-based, open source, very community-based.
They've made a recent change. Their three largest projects were done from concept and taken to production. And now what Kickstarter has done with their user agreement is you have to have an actual working model before you can create a program with Kickstarter, which means if you're somebody using design or in the design category, you have to have a working model before you can fund your project. You have to spend the dollars to get one running. And that's a big change. It's not a bad decision. Part of it is because the folks that have had these huge successful Kickstarter campaigns from a design have had problems meeting deadlines to get those designs out there. And Kickstarter doesn't like that reputation and doesn't want it to get worse.
Yeah, Kickstarter does a very good job of trying to give a polished product. They want them to be seamless and flawless. On the flip side, by putting those restrictions on what they do, it really gives Indiegogo a chance to take over a population base and to take over, some of the inventors of our days that have a great idea but need the funding to even get it to concept and to get a working model. So that's a big difference there. The next major difference that we've seen is, do you get to keep your money based off of your goals and what you set forward and your project success? So Obviously, Kickstarter and Indiegogo differ there. Kickstarter is kind of an all or nothing, and really that can be the difference of thousands of dollars and $0, while Indiegogo lets you keep anything that you raise. They just have a couple different criteria when that happens. Kickstarter, with the all or nothing, if you're at 79%, you're not going to get funded the money that you've raised, even though it could be in the thousands of dollars range.
So if you have a project that you're saying your number that you need is $10,000, and if you raise $7,000 on Kickstarter, because you didn't meet your $10,000 requirement, your goal, you don't get a penny of it.
Not a dime.
You got to get over that $10,000 mark to get to get your share of the money, because obviously Kickstarter, we'll talk about this a little bit, wants to take its share too.
Absolutely. And then in Indiegogo, you get to keep everything you raised, but obviously by setting a goal, there needs to be some sort of push to get to that goal. And the way that Indigo has facilitated that is your fees are substantially higher on how much Indiegogo gets to keep based off a 4% or 9% keep. A 4% is what you get if you hit your goal, but Indiegogo will keep 9%, an additional 5% if you don't hit your goal. So there's still an incentive to hit your goal on Indiegogo, but you will get to see some of that funding that you've raised even if you don't hit your goal.
And now on the other hand, I know Kickstarter, they have a 5% administration fee, and they keep a payment processing fee of 3 to 5%. It varies on all money raised. So it sounds to me that if you can meet your goal, Indiegogo saves you dollars.
Well, and if you don't meet your goal, Indiegogo saves you dollars, because the other option on Kickstarter is you don't get any of your money.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And Indiegogo, I guess, has quite a big community. So when it comes from a crowdsourcing perspective, although Indiegogo looks like a better deal, the reason so many are going with Kickstarter is because so many are going with Kickstarter?
Yeah. I mean, Indiegogo has a great community base, and they're kind of the smaller kid on the block. They have this. They feel like Kickstarter. They have a bully mentality against them, but Kickstarter's been around. It's the safer. It's the more fluid. They have restrictions, so that way everything seems to be seamless. You feel really comfortable with their expertise. You get advisors to help you through that. So if you're not real comfortable with the whole idea of crowdsource funding, or if you don't have a large following to start with, it seems that Kickstarter gets to be picked more often than not, just because they've been doing it a little bit longer. They have a little bit more of a polished product. But when you really dive into like the money numbers, you're going to be paying close to 10% on a successful project with Kickstarter, while on Indiegogo, you're only going to be paying 7%. And that's a lot of money. And then on the flip side, if you don't successfully hit your goal, you get 0 with Kickstarter, and you'll be paying about a 12%, but you at least get that funding. So it's really interesting diving into the two differences here with Indiegogo and Kickstarter. But if you just break it down numbers-wise, if you feel like you're going to hit your goal and you have enough followers before you start your project, Indiegogo seems to be the better option financially. You
had mentioned that you'd come up with a significant difference between the two, dealing with overseas projects or out of the U.S. projects.
Yeah, that's actually a big one. Kickstarter is only available, as of right now, is only available for U.S. citizens. So if you plan to be the major front of your project and you're going to put it in your name or your business name, then you need to have a tax ID or a social security number in the United States. If you don't have that, it makes your decision really, really easy. You need to go through Indiegogo because they're the only ones that will accept you.
Interesting.
So the other major difference that we see, and once again it's still tied around money, is how you actually receive your money. The Indiegogo is willing to take almost all major credit cards, and they also use PayPal, which is kind of a universal funding throughout the world, really, while Kickstarter is limited to Amazon only. So if you don't have an Amazon account that has a verified bank account, then you will need to get a verified bank account, and that's the only way that they pay out. Now, obviously, when people are funding your projects through Amazon, they can use debit, credit card, even basically everything but PayPal. But to get your bank account verified, Amazon drops a couple pennies into your account. You then have to go into your bank account, find out what that exact amount is, and then verify it. That's a process.
Yeah.
And so if you're wanting to get this going and ready and you don't have an Amazon account, or you don't want to have an Amazon account, you have a PayPal that you feel comfortable with that you've been doing for a while, then once again, Indiegogo seems to be the way to go. But
yeah, and it's going to take up more time too. I mean, that process eats up some of your time.
Absolutely, and the reason, we'll be honest on this show, the reason Kickstarter does that is they get a kickback from Amazon for using them. So they're not going to change that policy. They're not going to make it any easier. They're going to want to continue to use that processing system because, well, they're in a good partnership with Amazon right now, and they're both very happy with it. So once again, it's a very smooth transition, and it's a very smooth transaction with Kickstarter because they have that polished project. They've been around for a while, but once again, you're getting into kind of some big business tactics. To get that, you're going to be paying extra for it.
I guess it just feels, to me, it's a little bit about style, too. I mean, Indiegogo is more of the wild, wild west, and Kickstarter is more of the city. Both of them can meet your needs. It just depends on where you feel comfortable and maybe also where your community feels comfortable. Those followers that you're expecting backing from.
Yeah, and everything that I've read and getting on the website and talking to people that have used Indiegogo, the community that they have is very close-knit. They want everybody there to succeed, and there is definitely a common goal in that community, and that's to make sure that they are better than Kickstarter. Yeah. It's that the bully on the block system. So if you can get into that community, he can tap into that resource. It's a big resource for Indiegogo, but then Kickstarter is very, very mainstream, and they've been doing this for a while with their advisors. So it is all about style points, and if you wanna pay the little extra to have somebody else do it for you, which we obviously aren't against with outsourcing, but Kickstarter seems to be the way to go if you want to have kind of an easier transition through that.
I agree. Well, Zach, thanks for spending some time, and folks out there, thanks for spending some time with us. Don't forget, please go to our website, www.roamingstartup.com, and sign up for our VIP group to keep in touch. And if you have any thoughts on this, the difference between these two, or any other ideas, please make a note in the comments below the video. Zach, take care. See you next week.
See you next week.
Well, thank you for joining us, boys and girls. Tune in next week and we will learn even more about how to fund your dreams with crowdfunding. Till then, remember, keep dreaming and don't get tied down with any strings. What does that mean, strings? I don't understand.